Hey everyone, it's Pixelade here and welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new. So something major happened within the Sims community this week. Depending on who you ask, it's either a devastating loss or maybe long overdue karma. On November 20th, Anadius, the person behind the Sims 4 updater and one of the most prolific data miners in the community, just vanished, completely disappeared. A single tweet, all done, have fun playing the game, smiley face. That's it. This tweet has garnered nearly 10 million impressions, at least as of the time I'm recording this, and the Sims community is still processing what actually just happened. Now, I want to be upfront, this video isn't me telling you what to think about piracy or about Anadius as a person. There are a lot of different perspectives on this, and they all do have valid points, and I'm gonna break down who they are, what exactly happened, the significance of it and why it matters, and also the very different ways that people are reacting to this. Oh boy, there is a lot to unpack here with this. So if you've been in Sims spaces online for any length of time, you've probably heard of the name Anadius. They operated within the Sims community for over 5 years, wearing two hats basically. The first was data mining. They dug through the game files to find information about upcoming packs before EA officially announced them. The second hat was the Sims 4 updater, which is a tool that lets players access all of the Sims 4's DLC completely free of charge. That is for every expansion, every game pack, stuff pack, and kit. This is content that would likely cost you around $1,500 US if you bought everything legitimately. Now, on the leaking side, as I have covered at least briefly, Anadius has a solid track record. They have correctly leaked for Rent back in October of 2023, then Lovestruck in June of 2024 with pricing and features before EA said anything about those packs, and more recently with businesses and hobbies. They've even had gaming outlets like Game Rant and Insider Gaming that would actually cite them as a source because they were usually right. But the Sims 4 updater is what made them a household name in certain circles. The tool worked across Windows, Mac, and Linux. It automated the process of adding DLC to your game and even let people access the gallery with that content. And again, it was completely free. They never charged a cent for it. And that single fact became central to Anadius's entire identity. Now, before we go any further, just a quick word from the sponsor of this video, Instant Gaming. There are massive deals on a ton of games from so many different genres, RPGs, first-person shooters, simulation titles, you name it, it's probably there. And on top of everyday deals, there's also the Black Friday event, which is coming up, and I will tell you more about that in a couple of days. But if you're here and disappointed surrounding the topic of free games, all hope isn't lost because, at least legally, with my giveaway on Instant Gaming, if you happen to be one lucky winner, you could win any game of your choice. It is completely free to enter. All you have to do is follow Instant Gaming socials, and you'll even get bonus entries if you follow mine. For huge savings on tons of new and older titles and direct access to my monthly giveaways, you can find my affiliate links down in the description box below. Now, I do need to mention something else though. Anadius had a reputation for being, let's say, not the friendliest person to interact with. They were pretty open about this themselves. Their website said, and I quote, "I don't help in private messages." They designed their whole support system as a filter. You had to find their Discord or their forum thread yourself, and they described this as an IQ test to filter out people they didn't want to deal with. Now, when people did reach out with questions, even basic ones, the responses could be pretty harsh. There's a tweet from December of 2024 that got a lot of attention where they just said, "You guys need to read." That energy was pretty consistent, and in their final Reddit post, they acknowledged it themselves, saying, and I quote, "Till the end, I acted like an asshole I am. Now, this was something that I have witnessed firsthand too. There's this one screenshot in particular that's been floating around as of recently. Back when businesses and hobbies released, Anadius made a tweet about it. Someone replied with just the word finally, and the response they got back was pretty intense. Something along the lines of, people like you who don't know how clocks work are the worst. I'm not gonna mention every idiot asking when the pack drops. It wasn't even 2 minutes after the release date, so shut the up. I'm not gonna lie, that's a pretty intense reaction to someone just saying finally, and this wasn't an isolated incident. Responses like this occurred pretty frequently. Now, a lot of people within the community defended this behavior, or at least tolerated it. The reasoning was pretty simple. This person was providing a sophisticated tool that saved people over $1,000, doing it for free, and had been doing it reliably for years. The frustration came from answering the same questions over and over from people who wouldn't read the documentation. In their own words, over 5 years, there were only 2 actual technical issues with the tools. Everything else was people not following instructions. So that's basically who Anadius was. A very skilled programmer, a reliable leaker, a provider of free tools, and also someone with very little patience for what they saw as stupidity. Now, jumping to current day, November 20th of 2025. Anadius posts a tweet that would go viral not just within the Sims community, but in the broader gaming space as well. All done. Have fun playing the game. And following that tweet, they also delete every other post from their Twitter history, leaving only that final message. Their website also went dark as well. And when people tried to launch the Sims 4 updater after that, they actually found farewell messages baked into the tool itself. One of those said, "This is a free program. If you paid for it, you were scammed." Clearly, there were people out there trying to resell Anadius's free tools. And the other message was more final. Sims 4 updater is dead. Permanently this time. It was a good run. Bye. Now, that phrase, permanently this time, is important. So earlier this year, about 4 months earlier, the updater had been declared dead temporarily, but it did come back after the summer. This time, the wording was deliberate. Now, on Reddit and the cs.rin.ru forum, Anadius left a bit more detail. They said, "I decided to step down, don't pester my close friends. Till the end, I acted like an asshole I am and haven't told them the reason why either." So even the people closest to Anadius don't know the full story. The community quickly identified harassment and entitlement as the likely catalyst. Users felt entitled to immediate updates whenever new DLC dropped. They were aggressive, demanding, and apparently pretty nasty about it. Now, when you combine that with the 5 years of answering questions from people who refused to read documentation, and something had to give, it makes sense why we got that reaction, at least in my opinion. There's also been talk about Anadius allegedly banning French and German speakers from their Discord server. I couldn't verify specifics, but I think it speaks to how the support environment had become increasingly hostile in both directions. The community largely blamed entitled users rather than Anadius for this outcome, and there is a certain irony there. People receiving free access to over $1,000 worth of content felt justified in harassing the person providing it. Now, the reactions to this honestly depend on who you follow and what the algorithm is showing you. Now, on Twitter, the dominant sentiment was grief and gratitude. There were players posting tributes, thanking Anadius for years of service, comments like, "I never would have afforded all the DLC without you, and I hope you find happiness and money all the rest of your days." Some players were devastated, saying things like, "Guess I'm never playing The Sims again." Now, with this grief also came a lot of anger directed at the harassers, people calling out the community for driving away someone who was doing this for free. But there are definitely people celebrating this too. Players who bought their content legitimately, people who opposed piracy just on principle alone, but open celebration was pretty muted in public spaces. Gaming outlet Gameblog reported that messages of thanks bloomed among the more legal players, but explicit gloating was was rare. And I think that's probably because openly celebrating against a figure many people loved would invite backlash. And to that, there were so many tweets that I couldn't even read because people quoted them and they blew up. So the original poster made their account private. Now, some of the humor within this kind of got dark. One particularly viral take from a French Sims account compared this to 9/11 for Sims fans, which is a choice, a very dramatic choice, but it does capture how seismic this felt to people who relied on these tools. So The Sims 4 is a unique situation in gaming. The base game is free now, that happened many years ago, but to get the full experience with all the content, we're talking $1,500 plus US. That's the actual price if you bought every expansion game, stuff pack, and kit pack. That is about what most people pay for rent, with a lot of people paying even more than that. So this number comes from EA's content splitting strategy. In The Sims 3, the pets expansion costs $40 and included all pets. We had cats, dogs, horses, and small animals like reptiles and rodents. But in The Sims 4, if you want that same breadth of content, you're gonna need cats and dogs for $40, My First Pet Stuff for another $10, then we have Horse Ranch for another $40. That is $90 for what used to be a single expansion. Yes, I guess you could argue that these packs are more fleshed out and that you're getting at least maybe a little more with each category, but still $40 versus $90, that is quite the spectrum. The Sims 3 Generations expansion pack that covered family life and activities for $40, that content got split across about 6 different Sims 4 packs, I guess depending on how you want to look at it. We have so many examples of DLC for DLC. Sims 4 is just really good with that. There are stuff packs that require you to already own specific packs to be useful, My First Pet Stuff, and these expansion packs often launch broken. We're still seeing this to this day with our most recent release, but there have been many releases from the past that were just as bad or even worse. My Wedding Stories, released in February of 2022, and guess what? The core feature, the wedding ceremony, didn't actually work. Sims wouldn't move where they were supposed to during their own weddings. And don't even get me started on Dying Out. This still has issues 9 years later. You still need third-party mods like Dying Out Reloaded just to make it work properly. And also the save corruption crisis, which is still ongoing, affecting a huge number of simmers. And they recently put out what they called their biggest bug fix update in 11-year history, addressing over 150 bugs. But guess what? The pattern continues, and I'm sure it will continue on. New patches frequently break as much as they fix. So, EA as a company has a reputation. I mean, let's ask the audience. They won Consumerist Worst Company in America, awarded in 2012 and 2013, back-to-back years. They beat out companies responsible for oil spills and the mortgage crisis. USA Today ranked them the 5th most hated company in the entire United States in 2018. Unprecedented DLC pricing, consistently broken releases, a parent company that people despise and is now being sold to Saudi Arabia. So, you get an environment where piracy becomes normalized, where people share installation guides openly on Steam forums and Reddit and Twitter and TikTok. This is the environment where someone like Anadius becomes a folk hero. It doesn't surprise me, and it shouldn't surprise you either. Now, I want to say I'm not endorsing piracy. I'm also not condemning it either, but what I am saying is that this specific context at least explains why the Sims community treats it differently than other gaming spaces. But I want to go back to Anadius's combative personality just a little bit here. Not really excusing it, but maybe trying to see the brighter side of why. So the way they ran things definitely wasn't sustainable long term. I think designing support systems specifically to filter out people you consider stupid and responding to basic questions with hostility, and allegedly banning people for speaking certain languages in your Discord, they are not signs of a healthy long-term situation, but Imagine providing a complex technical tool for free for several years. Imagine watching thousands of people benefit from your work while a vocal minority constantly demands more, faster, and give it to me now. Imagine checking Twitter or Reddit or Tumblr and Blue Sky every day, not to see gratitude, but to see complaints from people who couldn't be bothered to read a basic FAQ. All of that is going to wear a person down eventually. And honestly, in my own opinion, I feel like a lot of the hostility we saw from Anadius was burnout. Again, not trying to excuse it, but maybe explain it. Someone who started out trying to help and eventually got fed up with being treated like the customer service for a product they gave away for free. But the entitlement issue cuts both ways. Yes, Anadius was rude to people from time to time, sometimes excessively so, but those people were demanding service from someone who owed them nothing. They were getting over $1,000 worth of content for free and complaining that it wasn't convenient enough. Now, in their March 2025 posts before the final exit, Anadius talked about checking social media looking for actual technical problems and finding almost none, just people who refused to follow instructions. And in 5 years' time, there were really only 2 real major bugs. Everything else was user error blamed on the tool creator. So when the harassment continued and the entitlement demands kept coming, and when the July 2025 temporary shutdown didn't change anything, all of that just made the November exit even more inevitable. So I really don't know where we go from here. The community is definitely figuring out what comes next in real time. People who already have the tools installed can still use them, at least from my knowledge. The DLC unlocker still works for content already downloaded. The source code for the unlocker tools is apparently safe with the moderation team, who can share it with anyone willing to update them if something breaks. There are other options as well. Fit Girl repacks are mentioned a lot as an alternative, and the CSRINRU forums still have resources. So if this is how you rely on getting Sims 4 packs for free, I personally don't think it's the end. Pirates adapt, and as one community member put it, pirates leave, retire, or get arrested every damn month, and the next month 3 more pop up. But you know, I think this era of easy and reliable style access with regular updates and comprehensive tools that we had with Anadius, that is definitely over, at least for now. Definitely let me know what you think about all of this down in the comments. Were you a user of the tools? Do you think the community drove Anadius away, or do you think this was always gonna end like this? I've been seeing a lot of discussion online about how he's been caught by the police and how he's gonna be going to jail. We don't know really what happened, what the real reasoning is, but if you use these tools, it's gonna be very different around here. That's gonna be it from me for now. As always, thank you so much for clicking and watching. Give this video a like if you enjoyed or found it entertaining or informative. Make sure you're subscribed if you aren't already, and take care and happy life simming, guys.